Fellow Southern Cameroonians, today begins the year 2011, and I seize this opportunity to wish you, and through you, your entire family, a very happy and prosperous new year, 2011. The year 2010, which has just ended, left a deep and delightful footprint on the sands of the Southern Cameroon's history. It is hard to ignore the provocations of our occupiers. President Paul Biya of La République du Cameroon decided to continue to undermine our sovereignty and territorial integrity by coming to our country uninvited to honor the oppression, repression, persecution, arrests, detentions, and illegal imprisonment, extrajudicial killings, and perpetual threats and assassinations by his occupying forces and administration against our armless and defenseless people. It is interesting to note that Mr. Biya, fond of funds, who claimed that Bamenda is his second home, was going there after 20 years of his 28 years in power. The purpose of his so-called Armed Forces Day celebration is a secret to nobody but to Mr. Paul Biya himself. He went there to intimidate Bamenda in particular, and the Southern Cameroons as a whole, because of their resolve to restore their statehood, which they lost through intrigues, fraud, manipulations, and deceit. Mr. Biya, therefore, decided to intimidate them by his military might. His military maneuvers failed to dissuade our people against their resolve to restore their statehood. What is more wicked and deceitful in this visit, which Southern Cameroonians consider as a non-event, is that President Paul Biya spent approximately 11 billion francs CFA, equivalent of 22.9 million US dollars, for this visit alone. This time, he came to give us another bag full of empty promises as usual. This huge sum of money could have been sufficient to build the promised university and the reference hospital. After depriving our people of Bamenda City of a huge thermal generator, a gift of the British government, inaugurated by Prince Charles in 1990, Mr. Biya is not ashamed to promise them a mere replacement of what he took away 20 years ago. Mr. Biya is very insensitive to our feelings. This is why he has made it impossible for the coming into being of a real constitution. All institutions of the state could derive their legitimacy and legal sanctions. That enhances his power as a dictator to make Omar in our territory. Thus, he can decide to take away our legal rights for empty promises. It is incredible that Mr. Biya offered no solutions at all to the problem of jobless youths who, after university education are still depending on their poor parents for their survival. Fellow citizens, La République's despot does not seem to read the bold handwriting on the wall. Happily, of course, your council has achieved a huge diplomatic breakthrough towards the restoration of our statehood. The United Nations formally and by conduct responded to our June 1st, 1995 petition and its many follow-up correspondences against La République du Cameroon's annexation of our country by its presentation of two framed, separate, distinct maps of La République du Cameroon and our country, the Southern Cameroons, during the 50th anniversary celebration of their independence on May 20th, 2010 in Yaoundé. The UN delegation was led by His Excellency Dr. Ali Abdul Salam Triki, Libya's Minister of African Union's Affairs, then President of the 64th session of the United Nations General Assembly. On behalf of the people of the Southern Cameroons and on my humble self, we are obliged to the United Nations for honoring its word as per its letter to us dated February 12, 2007. This official public UN handover of two maps has made as more to its immediate significance than meets the eye, especially as the distinguished guest was the President of the UN General Assembly, the UN organ empowered by Article 85 of the UN Charter to exercise all functions of the United Nations with regard to trust territories. It was in that capacity that the United Nations began the superfluous yet futile exercise, the future of the Cameroons under the United Kingdom's administration, Agenda Item 13, which ended up as United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1608-15. La République du Cameroon prevented a de jure union from coming into being by fraud and insidious manipulations. Thus, a de facto union came into existence. They then sought and occupied the Southern Cameroons illegally, militarily, and administratively, with horrible consequences to our utter detriment. It is that UN official body, the United Nations General Assembly, that had the legal right to end the de facto union after La République du Cameroon's official and legal secession. Ladies and gentlemen, I congratulate your hard-working council very immensely for this mammoth achievement, exercising therefore the responsibility and power conferred on me by your council and our founding fathers, His Excellency Dr. Jongu Fonche and His Excellency Solomon Tendeng Muna, both former Prime Ministers of Southern Cameroons and Vice President of the failed United Nations Federation. The following changes are due and come into effect from today. 1. The Southern Cameroons National Council, SCNC, becomes the Council of State, COS. 2. The motto of our struggle to restore our sovereignty becomes truth, legality, and trust shall prevail. 3. Our new flag replaces the handshake as our insignia or symbol. 4. The philosophy of our struggle remains non-violence. All other pertinent and relevant changes shall take place eventually. Dear brothers and sisters, we understand that some fictitious registration of voters is going on in the southern Cameroons. It is no secret that Mr. Biya will be declared by hook or by crook as winner in 2011. When Mr. Biya declared during the adoption of the so-called Cameroon Constitution in 1996 that the tenure of the president shall be changed to 7 years and no more than 2 terms for any individual, his supporters and unwary citizens thought that Mr. Biya had become a real democrat as to stipulate a limit to the tenure of the president. Unfortunately, dictators change very hard. His eyes are fixed on becoming a life president rather than just succeeding himself for another term. All that would not have bothered us. But for the fact that Mr. Biya is using the southern Cameroonians as guinea pigs or pawns for his undemocratic enterprise. I must say that it is not in the interest of any patriotic southern Cameroonian to partake in the forthcoming election, whether as a voter or a candidate. We therefore call upon the international community to get France to prevail on Mr. Paul Biya to respect his word, at least for once. It's easy to see that the so-called presidential election of 2011 has already been rigged from mere registration of voters. According to the CPDM, the population of the Southwest is 1.3 million. They claim to have registered 94,000 voters out of 1.3 million. This is a measly 7.2% of the so-called 1.3 million. The reason for this negligible number of registered voters is that our people are determined to restore their sovereignty, come what may. These statistics reflect the registration of voters throughout the southern Cameroons. I therefore take delight to congratulate our people for living up to their word, commitment, and resolve.